One of the things I think that is important for people to understand is that in 1860, there were only about 500,000 free blacks in the country. There were 4 million slaves in this country. Now, the practical impact of that is if you were a free black person, it was almost impossible that you wouldn't have a friend, a relative, somebody close to you who was a slave. Said differently, it was almost impossible that you as a free black person wouldn't have a vested interest in the abolition of slavery. I've read essays written by black school children in the city of Cincinnati in 1840, and they were asked to write on the question, what do you really care about? And an 8-year-old wrote, I really care about the fact that I've got a cousin in the slavery who's got as much right to freedom as I have. And we need to get, in his words, as I remember, a man in office, he's talking about the presidency, who can break the slave chains and bring my cousin out of slavery. I mean, these are the things that little kids thought about. You can understand the extent to which abolition was a predominant preoccupation with free blacks. For those free blacks who had the wherewithal, who had some land, people like in the Midwest, in Illinois, Free Frank, who was a free black person who settled and did quite well, a farmer, and was able to use some of his wealth, some of his influence to bring some of his relatives out of slavery, to provide for them a place to work, a place to live. It was that kind of continuing life effort to act in individual ways to emancipate slavery for individual slaves that free blacks all over the North participated in almost daily. There are stories, unbelievable stories, of people who literally spent their lives working to raise money to buy the freedom of their children, of their spouse, of their mother and father. I mean, people who literally, in the most literal sense, were abolitionists, that is, who abolished by their own hands slavery for substantial numbers of people, not to mention the extent to which these individuals participated personally in the Underground Railroad. We sometimes think of the Underground Railroad as this kind of official, highly organized, institutionalized thing, almost like the people walked around with Underground Railroad cards in their pockets. In reality, the Underground Railroad was an informal situation in which slaves, who after all made the initial break from slavery, encountered people who may not know them, who may not belong to any official abolitionist or Underground Railroad organization, but simply saw a fellow human being in trouble and was willing to help them. Was willing to help them often in cases where to do so might put your own family, your own life in substantial jeopardy. Especially this is true after 1850, because although 1850's fugitive slave law was not the first fugitive slave law, it was the most harsh fugitive slave law this country has ever passed. It was a fugitive slave law which made it incumbent upon free people, black and white, to participate in the capture and arrest of fugitives against their will. So that if you refused as a free person to participate, to help in capturing a fugitive slave, you could be fined and imprisoned for your refusal. Now, under those circumstances, it was no small decision that people made when they decided to, at this moment, for this person, become a part of the Underground Railroad. I think you have to take your hats off to people who are willing to put themselves in jeopardy to help people, often people they did not know.